And then I noticed some of them had stones, and I was like, okay, this is not good. And the
They're like
Lord,
holding rocks.
the Lord spoke
Yeah.
to me, and He said, Jerame, He said, if you want to live, you better start moving in power right now. So when we went to Pakistan last November, we did the mass crusades, but we also went to an Afghan village. And it was funny because, I said to the guys, I said, on the ground, I said, I want to go to the worst place possible. And they just looked at me like, are you sure? And I said, yeah, I'm absolutely sure. So we ended up going to this Afghan camp. And what's wild about it was I thought we were going to like a normal refugee camp where, people were victims of war and the whole thing. Well, I had no idea. These people got kicked out of their country because of that stuff. And so the government didn't really talk with them or mess with them. They just kind of were off in the corner. And when we went, Darren, it was one of the worst living situations I'd ever seen. Dead bodies on the side of the road. The smell was, like when we got out of the bus, it was like, whoa, there's something different about this, But I just know that the heart of Jesus is to go to those kinds of places where people are lost and they don't know him. And, this is like, they told us this is an unreached people group. We went in there and we went into the village. And when we got there, we thought we were going to have like the welcoming party, but we actually had a whole bunch of people that were not that happy we were there. In fact, they planned on stoning us to death. And we didn't know that when we were going in, but about halfway through our introductions, like with them, we realized, wait, something's not right, And I'd had a dream a couple nights before kind of warning that there could be the possibility of some sort of an attack. And that I actually saw a guy's face in my dream that I saw in the crowd there. And so, we had our worship leader with us, Andrew Hopkins, and he started worshiping, and me and him started jumping around, and nobody else did anything. There's people watching us, and the Lord, like, no response, just.
Yeah.
And then I noticed some of them had stones, and I was like, okay, this is not good. And the
They're
Lord,
like holding rocks.
the Lord spoke
Yeah.
to me, and He said, Jerame, He said, if you want to live, you better start moving in power right now. And I thought, okay, well, what do I do? And He said, somebody's got a deaf ear. I want to open it. So I said, who's got a deaf ear? And it was one of the main leaders of the camp, had a deaf ear since birth. We prayed for him. The ear popped open.
Wow, come on.
And the place came unglued, shouting and praising,
Wow,
and
wow.
and screaming, and it broke it open. And then I thought, well, all right, let's preach the gospel. And the Lord said, you better feed them first if you want to live. And I'm like, God, why do you keep saying if we want to live? And He's like, trust me. So we fed them. All the women and children came out at that point. It was no longer just the men. We gave away 1,000 meals in about 15 minutes. And it was almost a riot because we didn't have enough food. And so anyway, after that, I decided, all right, now's the time to preach the gospel. And so we preached, and like 26 people got saved. 2 of them were imams. And then all of a sudden, the head imam came down, and he gets real close to me in my face. And he says, you're not welcome here. Get out. You weren't invited. You just came. And so anyway, we ended up leaving. And when we left, there was a representative from the UN that was there. He ran up to our bus, and he said, you guys are crazy. He's like, do you realize who these people are? And we said, no. And they said, these guys are the ones that they're responsible for a lot of the destruction and craziness, and the government's scared of them. But thank you for showing them love. He was like, nobody's ever come back here. He's like, I don't know how you did that miracle thing, but it was like you got their attention. And so anyway, we left.
These guys are like terrorists.
Oh, it's, they had machine guns back there. It's what they told us. They had piles of them and, all kinds of stuff.
Hence God's saying, like, if you want to live, you better operate in the supernatural, like right now.
Exactly, right now.
Yeah.
Because the supernatural power of God is what puts the powers and principalities in check, When Jesus was moving in miracles, it was more than just like wowing people. I mean, listen, where there was a deaf and dumb spirit in a region, when He broke that power, over the deaf and dumb spirit in a boy, then the whole region received the gospel.
Totally. Don't you think that a lot of times, like in the charismatic camp, in the modern day charismatic thing, right, that sometimes the supernatural is more of like a luxury than it is like an actual necessity.
That's right.
Right. It's almost more like, because our generation is just like into special effects just for the spectacular part of it, right?
Totally.
And so I love that. I love it when like the supernatural, like this is no longer a luxury. This is a necessity.
That's right.
If you want to live.
Well, it's the gospel.
Come on.
I mean, everywhere Jesus went, the Bible tells us that He saw people like sheep that had no shepherd, and because of that, His heart was moved with compassion, with love for them, and He saw them as weary and scattered, and because of that, He healed them all. Yeah. And so, you'll never ever see a separation between the teaching and the preaching of the gospel and the demonstration of the gospel. And I believe that as a generation, we've gotten really heady. We've gotten a lot of head knowledge, but we need to start getting the supernatural power of God, which flows from heart knowledge. And when we do, it breaks strongholds and it opens up the reality of the kingdom. And so what's amazing is, we went there, we survived, and we went home. And then in March, the pandemic happened. And the Lord spoke to me at the very beginning of the pandemic. He said, one of the keys to actually, the financial realm and even my provision for you and Elisha Revolution and the Fire and Glory outpouring, to make it through the pandemic is going to be the poor.
Wow.
He said, sowing into the gospel, sowing into the kingdom. And so I thought, all right, cool, we'll do whatever you want. We didn't have much money. We'd been going week to week, just by the offerings that came in online and those that were given in-house. And so when you take away the in-house now, we're like, okay, now we're just only online. And I remember I go, okay, well, Lord, who do you want us to sow into? And it was like the next day, I got a call from Pakistan, and it was our guys that we work with there, and they said, you're not going to believe this. They said, listen, we've got COVID really bad in our nation. It's shut down. And they said a lot of people are dying from starvation. The government doesn't have any kind of infrastructure to help them. And they said, remember the Afghan camp? And I said, of course. And they said, remember the guy that wanted to, he told you to get out and you weren't welcome there and they wanted to kill us, but God showed up. And I said, of course. And he goes, yeah, the same guy that kicked you out contacted us and asked us if we could get in touch with you. And he said that he wanted to see if you could help him. Wow. Because the government was unwilling to help them because they're not Pakistan, they're Afghan. And so he said, your Jesus provided for us once the love, that you showed with the meals. Would you be willing to do it again?
So this is the same camp that was previously Christ hostile.
Yep.
Looking to actually literally stone you with rocks.
Yep.
And then God showed up. Yep. And they remembered you. And then when everything kind of hit the fan for them, their own kind of government wouldn't provide for them. And they found you, they tracked you down and asked if you'd be willing to help with their survival during this time.
Yeah, and so we've sent over $40,000 of relief, and
that's incredible.
We've fed hundreds of families, and we put together these care packages that it's like necessities and food and bags of rice and basic living supplies, shampoos, toothpaste, vitamins, all of that kind of stuff.
We're gonna put your stuff in the show notes. It's not there yet, but for people watching and they're getting really excited about this, how can they donate specifically into what you're doing there in Pakistan?
Very simple. You just go on our website, go to elisharevolution.com, click the donate button, and there's a link that says missions. And so you just click the missions link, and there's a little tiny spot that you can write a little message in. So you could write in there Pakistan relief or Afghan camp or something like that, if that's something that God puts in your heart.